Good evening, everyone. Please, a warm welcome to all of you. Just a few rules for the session. Please ensure that your mics are on mute at all times, and please switch your cameras off so that we are not disturbed by what we can see on your sides. For those coming in for the first time, please do give us the name of the school and the province from which you come so we could acknowledge you and also give you a warm welcome. And to those who have been a part of these sessions, thank you again for coming through. Remember, we have concluded, or had rather, concluded our sessions, but due to a number of you who really asked that we have the last one, I had to make up some time for you. So this is why we are here today, even after we had said we are not going to have any session. I just like to acknowledge the following people. Hilary Kosam, who is ensuring that these are recorded for people to be able to watch them and catch them later, especially if they are unable to join us now. Thank you so much, Kosam, for that. Please ensure that you keep checking the lobby. I see we still have a lot of people coming through. I would also like to acknowledge the contribution by the DBE. We're going to be using the material that comes from the DBE, the quick wins material, as well as exam prep material we're going to use there. I'd like to also acknowledge Miss Elizabeth Meyer, Mr. T. Osborne, Vash Suchit, Mr. Srini Naika, as well as Belinda Retief, great voices that have contributed vastly in what we're going to do today. So it is a very professional thing to acknowledge people whose material you are making use of. So in this session, these different people and individuals have made great contribution in what we're going to do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, we are not reteaching anything at this point. We are aware of the number of hours that we have left before the national senior examinations start. For some of us, please be aware that for some learners, exam had already started from the previous week. So it's just that most of you, in fact, from tomorrow, all of you will start with your examination processes. So now we are not reteaching anything. All we are doing is just to give you some tips on how to go about in tomorrow's paper. Before Kosam show us or presents or displays the paper, I want us to go and check some few things that we need to get a repeat of in terms of what's going to happen tomorrow. Again, are you to see what's on the screen, guys? Thank you very much. If you can, please try and zoom in so you could be able to see clearly what exactly we are trying to do. Now, the Department of Education has come up with a 40% pass strategy for paper one. Now, this strategy is entirely aimed at learners who are really finding it hard to pass paper one. We do take note and we do acknowledge that there are learners who could score higher marks than these. But this 40% pass strategy is to accommodate even those learners who have been finding it difficult to pass. So now we are saying everyone is able to pass their paper one examination. And these are a number of targets that we have set out in order to ensure that learners do get a bare minimum pass of the paper. I would like to believe that I have a group of young learners in this meeting who are aiming for the better. We are not saying this 40% pass strategy isn't the better, but I'm hoping that most of you are aiming higher than this. But for those few learners who are truly struggling, for your comprehension, which is out of 30, the maximum mark is 30, we are saying at least a target of 10 marks. That shouldn't be too difficult to attain or achieve. So 10 out of 30, you would have met 40% of the paper, of the section, by the way. And now we move to section B, which is your summary. Maximum mark is 10, and here you are required to at least get a 6. And then we move to your visual literacy, which is your cartoon analysis as well as your advertisement or advertisements. Yeah. So here a maximum mark being 10, and you are required to at least get a minimum of 5. And then your advertisement also maximum mark of 10, and your minimum target again being 2. And then textual editing, also known as language context, also known as using language correctly. That is question number 5. What we are actually requiring is a very minimum of 2 marks out of 10. You'll realize someone might say, but why are they looking at a 2 mark instead of a 5, like cartoon as well as advertisement? You'll realize when we look into these questions how difficult this can be, because what this question is really assessing is your knowledge of the language structures and conventions from way back in primary school to where you are now. So unfortunately, for those who haven't been practicing much, it's going to be rather a rocky type of a journey for them, because when it comes to language rules and structures and conventions, much practice needed to have gone through the whole of grade 10, the whole of grade 11, as well as grade 12. Now, let's move to something which is very much important for tomorrow. And I need you to really take this seriously. Now, this is from a presentation by Mr. Osborne, a very great English teacher who has, with his team, looked into the senior markers report of a particular year's marking. And then he calls this presentation some exam tips from the horse's mouth. Who are the horse's mouth? In this case, it's your chief deputy markers, your chief marker, your markers. So after we mark, we do write particular things that we have observed, and they are compiled into a chief markers report. So now, one of the most and major pitfalls which were picked up was the fact that learners produced terrible marks because they saw a need of answering the paper chronologically. And this is where the problem is, because learners spent too much time attempting a comprehension passage, which is worth 30 marks, at the expense of the 40 marks that is following. That is the 10 for your summary, the 10 for your advertisement, the 10 for the cartoon, as well as the 10 for using language correctly. Those are 40 marks which are lost in the process because majority of you tend to spend too much time than you're supposed to on your comprehension passage. So the finding was that learners were not doing well because they were trying to answer the question chronologically. May I remind you, you are to start with any section of your choice, as long as you don't break questions apart. What am I trying to say here? You can't answer question 3, 3.1, and 3.2, and then you start question number 4, 4.1, and then you come back, you bring 3 point something after 4. In that case, you're going to create chaos for yourself. So in this case, the advice then is rather follow this order. And I'm going to explain why you have to follow this order. And it seemed to work. It seemed to be very, it favors you more than anything. So let's look at what it is that you need to begin with. That is your section section B, which is your summary. This carries 10 marks, and if done properly, you're able to score over 6 marks. If you get 6 for the points, it means already you get 3 marks for the language. And then in that case, you have 9 marks. Already in terms of your 40s, you are starting off quite well. And you move to language because these are short texts to read. And the questions are not that taxing and too demanding like comprehension passage. Scaffolding type of questions, you need to have read thoroughly paragraph and paragraph, and now you need to have established key arguments and main ideas and all of that. So that one should be left to right. Presentation, she has put together a quick win strategy for comprehension passage. And now we need to be very careful in how we're going to answer our questions here. And now, what is going to guide us in our response is the mark allocation. So the mark allocation should be used as a guide, and we need to be able to stick to the point of what the question is asking. So for a 2 mark question, I need to write between 2 to 4 lines. And then for a 3 mark question, I need to write between 3 to 5 lines. And for 4 mark question, for a 4 mark question, yes, I need to write between 4 to 6. Avoid writing a whole page for 2 marks. That is quite unnecessary because in most cases you end up waffling and not getting to the point and thus getting a 0. So keep your responses as brief and to the point as possible. Now, let's see what I have on my side because some before you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to show you an example of what we're going to use today as a text. I'm sure you're able to see this is my text. We're going to use a clean text in order for us to be able to see clearly. But this is an example of how it looked like after. Let's look at the title. The old have made a mess of the world, and I stated there, I annotated that's negative. The young will save us. That is a positive thing. And then I started highlighting and underlining and annotating. There is absolutely no way you could work with this document and not highlight. Now, the day of not highlighting is that you may miss a lot of things that should be done. You may miss a lot of things because you did not identify them during. All right, Kosam, are we ready with the question paper? Okay, guys, can we just give Kosam? All right, thank you. All right. Now, I want us to look into the instructions and information. I know I just needed to say this right before we started. Please be aware this is going to be a very long session because we're going to go through the whole paper one. So for those who might think we're just going to focus on one thing, unfortunately, the whole purpose for today is to go through the whole paper. So it means we might have 3 sessions. We're going to have to end one session after an hour and finish up the next hour, end it, and then finish. I think we're going to take 2.5, if not 3 hours today. So please let your parents know of this particular issue. Now, I know when you are in the exam room, you are, your nerves are all over the show and you tend not to look at things. Now, let's look at instructions and information. The question paper, this question paper consists of 3 sections. It's your comprehension, which is out of 30. Your summary, that's section B, which is out of 10. And you have language in context or using, language in context has your cartoon, your advertisement, and using language correctly. That's 30 marks. I know it may look like you've got 3 questions. You don't. You actually have 5 questions. Let's break these down. Section A is question 1. Section B is question number 2. Section C has the advertisement as question 3, the cartoon as question 4, using language correctly as question 5. So all in all, by the end of your 2 hours tomorrow, you should have 5 questions. You should have answered 5 questions. Why? because you have no choice. Instruction number 3, you are to answer all the questions. And again, boys and girls, please ensure, let's look at instruction number 4. You need to start each section on a new page. There is nothing as annoying during the marking process when we come across a paper with 2 sections on 1 page. Guys, you have a book-like type of a writing material. You are going to get a book type of an answer book. In fact, it's an answer book with over 20 something pages, if I'm not mistaken. Make use of the paper provided. It's paid for. Taxpayers have made that possible for you to get that size of a paper. So don't try and spare anything. That's the first thing I need to re-emphasize. You need to start on a new page. Once you start with section A, it must be on a new page. Section B, it should be on a new page. Section C, on a new page. And then, number 5, you must rule off after each section. Now, this is you indicating to the marker that I have completed this section and therefore am moving on to the next. If you leave a section without being ruled off, you are giving an impression that you have a continuation somewhere else. Now, boys and girls, please be careful. We have found instances where a learner used page number 7 to answer a question and they ran out of space. And on page 8, they decided to start on a new question. And then on page 25, they decided to continue writing the answer they were working on when they were using page number 7. And now when we mark, we don't get to think that some of your answers are written right way back at the end of your book. So don't assume that the marker is going to page through and try and find your answers. We don't have time for that. So ensure that you follow the page numbers. You use the numbering system. That's where we are now on rule number 6. Number the answers correctly according to the numbering system used in this question paper. If the question is 1.1.1, you do that. Do not use A, B, C's, and D's. Otherwise, you're going to get seriously penalized because you are not answering this question because we don't have A, B, and C. So ensure that you do that. Rule number 7, here's another problem. You don't leave a line after each answer. I don't know why at grade 12 level learners are still struggling with this one. It's a general rule. From grade 10, you would or you should have been taught to leave a line out after each answer. So it's 1.1, you answer. We said if it's 2 marks, you are going to give us 2 to 4 lines. After 4 lines, you skip a line. It's the next question. You write the the 3 to 5 lines, you skip a line. You do your 4-mark question, 4 to 6 lines, you skip a line again. So ensure that you do that. And then this may sound very scary, but I don't mean to scare you. It's the truth. Paper 1 is a language paper, and therefore you should pay special attention to your spellings and your sentence constructions. Because if your spelling is incorrect, you might not get a mark. Because in this particular paper, the assessment is on the use of language. So avoid misspellings because these are going to cost you a great deal. And then, number 9, you have suggested time allocations. Guys, if you can stick to this time, I promise you, you will not find yourself in that particular group of learners who can't finish papers. I mean, you have 15 minutes for your section A, and you have 30 for section B, and 40 for section C. Remember, section C has 3 questions. So it'll depend on you how you would break that 30 minutes into 3. And make sure you stick to the time frames. Otherwise, you will not complete anything. Again, I gave you a structure. You start with the summary, followed by the language question, which is question number 5. Summary question 2, language is question 5. Your advertisement is question number 3. Your cartoon is question number 5. And then finally, you finish off with your comprehension passage. In that case, you are going to ensure that you finish the paper and that you finish it very strong. Now, for strong learners as well, this is an approach that you need to take, because I don't want you to have this mindset of thinking, no, I'm a strong learner, I might as well start with the comprehension passage. You might be disadvantaged along the way. Remember, you haven't written an external paper of this magnitude in your history at high school. This one that you're going to write tomorrow is not your daily breakfast type of a paper that you can drink coffee over. This is going to be a very challenging paper for which you need to be thoroughly prepared. Now let's move to the last instruction here. We are to write as neat and legibly as we can. Boys and girls, it's if I cannot read as a marker, then you are going to have a problem. There is no mark allocation I can be able to credit. Remember, this year, learners with difficult handwritings had to apply for a concession for a handwriting. So if you have a seriously difficult to read handwriting and you never applied for a special concession for a writing, then it becomes a problem. All right. Okay, let's continue. Can you hear me, guys? I had a call disturbing me. All right. Kosam, I think you can take us now to the summary, please. Please mute your mics, please. Guys, make sure that your mics are on mute all the time. Kosam, are we ready? I can see it now. All right. Can the others see? All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is from last year's paper, the 2021 paper, and I need us then to quickly get to business. Again, this is a section that must be looked into very carefully. Now, let's look at what is it that we're supposed to do. As you open your answer book, you should write section B, summary, question 2, summarizing in your own words, and then text C. Now, this lays out very neatly for the marker to understand what exactly are they going to mark. Remember, at the marking center, we don't mark everything. So I may mark summary, somebody else might mark advertisement, someone else might mark the comprehension passage. So hence you need to begin each sentence each section on a new page to enable different markers to locate the sections that they are marking. So please be very careful with how you're laying out your answers. Now, Section C discusses research done on the spread of fake news. Now, that first line is giving us a background on the issue of the discussion that was found, or of the research which was conducted on the spread of fake news. And now you are then being told what exactly it is that you should summarize, and that's what you need to focus on. So summarize in your own words. Now, I need to just pause there, because learners tend to think that this is one particular writing that they can get away with wrongdoing. You ought to summarize in your own words. You cannot lift. Now, lifting would mean that you are taking exactly the text as it appears on paper. That is one thing you should avoid, because the instruction was as clear as possible that in your summarization, you need to use your own words. I'll show you in a moment how we can do that. So what are we actually summarizing in our own words? The research undertaken on fake news. Now, the question first presented to us a background to what this article is about. And now from the article, the examiner wants me to summarize in my own words the research undertaken on fake news. So I'm going to find in each paragraph what exactly was a research conducted on fake news. Now let's look at the please note section of the instructions. Number 1, your summary should include 7 points and not exceed 90 words. Now I need us to stop a bit here, because this is one thing that can confuse learners. Remember, tomorrow in your exam rooms, you will not see an English teacher. We are not allowed anywhere near the English writing until you are completed or have finished writing. So please don't bother the poor maths teachers, because they may not know what's needed in this case. So now, as a word of advice, 2 things in number 1, or on number 1. Let's look at the words here, 90 words. Now, boys and girls, whatever you do, please do not summarize in less than 90, and do not summarize in more than 90 words. If you go beyond 90, you have really misunderstood the whole purpose of this section, which is to summarize. So summarizing is all about taking this whole chunk of writing and we compress it into a smaller paragraph. So ensure that you stick to 90. Oh, well, someone says, what if I go up to 95? Okay. An exception may be done by the markers to at least give you credit up until the 95th word. But thereafter, we're going to rule off, and whatever that comes below the mark, I mean the mark that we have ruled, we are not going to consider in terms of grading. But in terms of reading, we will continue to read and not give you a mark. So a mark is going to be given right up to the 90th word, with an exception of 95 words. But I'm trying to not get us to go beyond 90. Let's stick to 90. And I will show you how you can get to 91, at least 91. I'll show you how, because with this strategy, I failed to get to the exact point, which is 90. Now, the 7 points, again, you are home language learners. So don't let the 7 points make you think that you are supposed to have 7 bullet points or a point form of 7 points. You are under no circumstances supposed to summarize in a bullet point form or a point form as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You are home language learners, and therefore number 2 says you must write a fluent paragraph. Now, someone asked a very interesting question. They said, you always taught us that a standard paragraph should be about 4 to 5 lines. And now, how am I now expected to go beyond that when I write a summary? There's an exception for a summary, because we need 90 words and we need them in a single paragraph. So we don't care whether your paragraph exceeds 4 to 5 lines. We need your summary to be in a paragraph. Don't break your paragraph apart, because once you do that, it's now a point form summary, and then it's going to have dire consequences. Now, you are not required to include a title for your summary. Boys and girls, for so many years, this instruction has remained. So since we, the teachers, don't even know what's going to come out tomorrow, please read these instructions, because you might find tomorrow that you are required to include a title for the summary. So in that case, before you start writing a paragraph, you would give a suitable title according to what you think should be a title, but not a title that is already given to you. Like, why fake news on social media travels faster than the truth. That is already there. So if you rewrite this, you are now copying. It's plagiarism, and therefore you are going to get penalized for that. Number 4, indicate your word count at the end of your summary. Boys and girls, there is this tendency when learners write summaries that with each line they write the numbers next to across the margins. It gets rather confusing. If you're doing that for the purpose of tracking how many words you are using, at least do it in pencil. And after you have put together the number of words that you have written by your margin, you can then write the total number in brackets, and then you erase that which you have written across your margins. So make sure that you don't confuse your markers. Make things as plain and as clear as they should be. All right, let's continue. Now, Zongo, Miss Zongo, are you here today? I'm gonna need a reader for me.
Yes, sir.
All right. Please read paragraph 1. Don't be too quick in your reading, because I'm just going to stop you from time to time, right?
Okay.
All right, you can read.
Why fake news on social media travels faster than the truth? Fake news is more novel than true news, and that may be why we share the false much faster and more widely.
Okay,
Prominent
whoa, whoa,
responses to
whoa, 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 just hold it there. There's something interesting in the first line which I need to ask people. False news is more novel. Now, in this case, we are not looking at the novel. So how we pronounce this is novel. What does this novel mean? Because if I don't know what this word would mean, therefore it's going to impede on certain methods of my summarization. Can somebody tell us what this word novel means? Sanel?
Yes, sir. Novel can either be um, like something that has been proven or something that was proven, so it becomes a novel. Or
No, not really. Not really. Keith Mtetwa?
I don't know the definition, but then can I try?
Mm. You know how I hate that way of responding. Ne?
Sorry,
Don't
sir.
don't don't pre- don't preempt your response. Just give me a response. I'm the teacher here. I will tell you if you are wrong or
Isn't it something interesting?
not at all.
Oh,
That's and don't tell me you haven't heard this word before. Let's see who is Bonga.
I think it is an unusual way.
Mm-hmm. Chris,
Sir, novel.
sorry,
Sir, it means new.
it means new.
Something that
If you remember, yeah, you're correct. If you remember with the advent of the coronavirus, they always said the novel virus, the novel coronavirus. So novel in this case would mean new. So the concept of false news is more new than true news. All right. Please, Sanela, mute your mic. Mute, please.
all right, no problem, sir.
All right. Okay. Ms. Zungu, you can carry on.
Prominent responses to false news include surprise, fear, and disgust. True news tends to be met with sadness, joy, anticipation, and trust. Humans are more likely than automated processes to be responsible for the speed of fake news.
All right. Just hold it there. Now, let me ask a question to all of you. Now, we are summarizing the research undertaken on fake news. Now, is there anything that points to a research undertaken on fake news in the first paragraph? Yes or no? Matatsi,
yes, there is. Sir.
there isn't.
There isn't. Yes.
All right, if there is, Sanele, please mute your mic. If there is, Matatsi, take us to the line so that we can maybe sigvalela ngaphandle. Take us to the line where you see something that refers to a research undertaken on fake news.
I think the first one is
With words, images, or links. and continues in an unbroken chain of tweets. The researchers analyzed cascades about news stories that six fact-checking organizations agreed were true or agreed were false. The study found that falsehood diffused significantly faster, farther, faster, deeper, and more broadly than truth in all the categories of information. Of all categories of fake news, false political news reached more people faster and went deeper into the networks than any other category of false information. Now, do we have a point or points on the research undertaken on fake news? Remember, always refer back to the topic, the instruction that you were given. The instruction is to summarize, in my own words, the research taken and undertaken on fake news. Anybody? Is there anything that takes me to a form of research made here?
Simba. Chips.
Again, guys, please keep your mics on mute. Oh, Bagit. It's a request. Please ensure that your mic is on mute. Anyone? Guys, you can't be silent. Let's see whose hand is up. Katlego?
We have 2 points under, in paragraph 2, which
Give me the
are,
first one. Yeah.
the first one is researchers have studied what they term rumor cascades. And the second
All
one
right.
is
That's the
researchers analyzed cascades about news stories that six fast-checking organizations agreed were true or agreed were false.
all right. Great stuff. You have managed to pick up the 2 points here. So the first being researchers have studied. Remember, we are looking at what research has undertaken or has been undertaken, or the research undertaken on fake news. What research was conducted? So research studied that, or what they term rumor cascade. Now, a cascade, so we need all of that point up to chain of retweets. That would be our number one. And then the second point she made was that the researchers analyzed cascades about news stories that six fact-checking organizations agreed were true or agreed were false. Now, have we exhausted all the points in this paragraph, or we still have more? Do we still have more points here? Come, class. Jacinto?
So I think we still have a point. So
Still have. Now give us another point then.
the study found that falsehood diffused significantly further, faster, deeper, and more broadly than the truth in all categories of information.
Oh, that is our third point. Very good point. Thank you so much. But we still have one more point in this paragraph. We still have one more point in this paragraph. Jacinto, you can carry on there.
Which is the last sentence. Of all categories of fake news, false political news reached more people faster and went deeper into the networks.
You can leave it. You can leave it there. It's all the way until the last sentence, which is of false information. So in paragraph 2, we already have 4 points. Great stuff. Let's move to the next paragraph. The study compared the emotional content of replies to true and false rumors by using about 32,000 Twitter hashtags and a lexicon of about 140,000 English words that are associated with 8 basic emotions. And then we have a colon here. So this colon introduces a list. And I needed to remember this because when we get to question 5, I'm going to be very angry with you guys for just being quiet when you are not able to say some things that you're supposed to say. So in this context, the use of this colon is to introduce that a list is to follow. So let's look at the list of basic emotions: anger, fear, anticipation, trust, surprise, sadness, joy, and disgust. Were automated processes or bots the main culprits in the spreading falsely? No. The researchers found that humans were responsible for spreading false news. Now, do we have a point or points in this paragraph? And if so, please. Amo, are you giving us an answer or you just unmuted? All right. Who's giving us an answer, guys? Kosam, I think please make sure you mute people for me. There's a tendency of people muting and unmuting here, and now it's rather disturbing on my side. Guys, do we have a point or 2 or 3 in this paragraph? Jacinto.
I think we have a point. So,
All right, which is?
the first sentence, the study compared
The
the
study
emotional
compared the
content.
emotion. All right, so we have that as a point all the way to sadness, joy, and disgust. So that's point number 5. All right, point 6. Who's giving us, or are you continuing? Okay, let's give Medi. Medi, give us point 6.
So point 6 is the researchers found that humans were responsible for spreading false news.
All right, but you should have started from where automated processes or bots the main culprits all the way to spreading the false news, right?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, that is our 6th point. Okay, let's move on. The researchers were more interested in identifying the factors that spread the true and the false news. And then we have a semicolon here. They included interviews with others. Now, why do we have a semicolon here? We have a semicolon because they are joining 2 sentences here. Because if we had a comma, again, I'm already taking you to section C, question number 5 here. If we had a comma here, it would give us a comma splice error, because we can't join 2 sentences of equal stature with a comma. So we used, in this case, a semicolon. So they included interviews with users, survey, lab experiments, and neuroimaging. Now, the researchers' paper points to some obvious reasons to look deeper. False news can drive misallocations of resources during terror attacks and natural disasters, the misalignment of business investments, and misinformed elections. More openness by the social media giants and greater collaboration by them with suitability qualified partners in tracking the problem of fake news is essential. Traditional journalists are potential partners too, since they find, check, and disseminate news. They are well placed to assess the reliability of the reports that they receive. They also attract masses of comments online and generate discussions on social media platforms. And then we have a dash. They have a clear incentive to maintain trust in their own contributions to democratic life. Now, Ndogozo, I think you wanted to give us the seventh point here.
I know, sir. I was just asking where are we? Cause I think I'm lost.
Are you lost? I mean, that I was reading paragraph 7. I mean, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The last two paragraphs.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's what I did, the last paragraph.
No, no, no. I want to ask a question. When you guys were on the third thingy, my network gave me a problem, so I'm not sure which points you guys found or discussed.
We already on the 6th point. Now we need to find the 7th one.
Okay.
So that is, we are looking at the last two paragraphs now.
All right.
All right, that's what. All right, anybody? Let's see. Jose,
Yes, sir.
all right, give us the 7 point, please.
False news can drive misallocation of resources during terror attacks and natural disasters. The misalignment of business investment, and misinformed elections.
All right, that would give us the 7th point, right? All right, we do have as another point, because in this particular text we have 11 points, by the way, and all we were requested to find is just 7 points. So the researchers were more interested in identifying the factors that spread the true and false news. They concluded or included interviews, blah, 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 all the way to neuroimaging. That could have been a point. Another point to consider was more openness. That's the last paragraph. By the social media giants and greater collaboration by them with suitably qualified partners in tracking the problem of fake news is essential. Traditional journalists, that's the 10th point, are potential partners too, since they find and check and disseminate the news, blah, blah, blah. Then the 11th point is the last two, the last three lines. They also attract masses of comments online and so forth and so on. Now, I want us then to look at, again, we have identified points. That's the first thing that you are going to do tomorrow. As you identify the points, make sure you highlight them and you number them. So we have point 1, we have point 2, we have point 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have already established number 1, where instruction says your summary should include 7 points. And now I need to ensure that these points are reduced to 90 words. So here's what I need to do. I need then to substitute some words here. So the question is, how am I going to do that? And some sentences are pretty long. So I need to look at, let's look at, for an example, point 1. Researchers have studied what they term rumor cascades. Now, a cascade starts with a Twitter user making an assertion about a topic with words, images, blah, 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 and continues in an unbroken chain of retweets. Now, I want you to pay very careful attention here. Researchers have studied what they term rumor cascade. That's all I need to write. Because the next sentences are a definition of what cascades are, or how a cascade begins. So that's extra information. I do not need that information in my summary. So let's look at finding words here to substitute. Researchers have studied what they term rumor cascade. Can somebody substitute one word or two in this particular sentence? Itumeleng?
So, researchers have studied what they define rumors cascades.
No, not define rather, but we can say what they call. Ne?
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah. So, ladies and gents, we see we have already substituted a word. We substituted the word term, and we use the word call. Now let's count. Researchers is 1, have, 2, studied, 3, what, 4, they, 5, call, 6, rumor, 7, cascade, 8. So we already have 8 words. It's a very terrible start. At least we should have about 13 words per point for us to get to the 91 lento the 91 expectation. All right. Can we get the second person to help us with the second point? Second point is the researchers analyze cascades about news stories that 6 fact-checking organizations agreed were true or agreed were false. Let's see who's up. Beje? Oh no. Who's coming in here? Guys, remember we're only changing. Someone's mic is not mute. Anybody? Who's giving us an answer here? I think I'm going to start calling people by name now. Let's see. Nako? Nako, where are you? Nako? So Unako will blue tick as well. Keep in touch. Guys, I'm trying to assist you here, and if you're keeping quiet, like it becomes honestly speaking, it's not serving the purpose for which we are here. Cesar?
Okay, so I would say the researchers analyzed cascades about news stories that 6 fact verifying organizations agreed were true or false.
All right, very good. Very good. Now, remember, guys, in your changing, do not lose the main idea of the particular sentence. All right, that was the second point that we looked at. Now let's move to the third one. The study found that falsehood diffused significantly farther, faster, deeper, and more broadly than truth in all categories of information. Okay, let's see who's ready to give us an answer here. Someone? Siamtanda?
So can you say false political news spreads faster than any kind of false news?
Or can you repeat your sentence? False news?
False political news spreads faster than any other kind of false news.
No, but you are repeating the false news idea. But rather just say news
Any kind of
without saying false.
Okay, so
Yeah, you're correct. You're most correct. All right. That was the third point. Let's go to the fourth point. I see Chabulani. Chabulani, which point are you? Or were you giving us the third one?
Yes, I wanted. Yes.
All right, you wanted to give us a third point.
Yes, I wanted to see if I'm correct because I wanted to say that the analysis have found that the fossil is significantly further, faster, deeper, and more approachable than the truth in all filters of information.
Okay, your line is terrible, no, but which word did you change?
I changed from the study. I said analysis found.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's good as well. It's correct.
Then categories, I said filters. I don't know.
Which one?
categories. I said filters.
Anguzo, yes. What did you say for categories?
I said filters.
Filters, no. Now you're gonna change the whole thing. You were correct with just the analysis and just leave it there.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's move on, guys. Okay. What we're gonna do now, we're not gonna do the whole summary. This was just to show you how to deal with the summary question, how to find the 7 points, and then when you start writing a fluent paragraph, all you do before you write, you look at what word I can change or substitute. All right, I'm going to substitute the word studied and use the word that. Yeah, I'm going to substitute the word term and use the word call. And then I take that whole chunk of a sentence, I write it down. But now, here's a trick. Make sure each point is not more than 13 words. If you times 13 by 7, it should give you 91. So if you have 13 words per point, you should be at a 91 Lendo benchmark. All right. Now, Kosam, take us to question number 5. Remember, this is the format we are going to follow tomorrow. So we started off with our summary, and now we move to question number 5, the most problematic question. You will see what I mean. You'll see what I mean. Now, using language correctly. Now, let's read. Now, text, now again, you're going to start by writing question 5, and then you write using language correctly, and then you write text G, and then you write 5.1. Instagram show-offs are prompting a backlash against overstage shots. Not an Instagrammer. You are missing, or you're missing out on a social network that's stuffed with crammed full of artfully shot camera phone photos, people's bronzed limbs, aka hot dog legs, laid out on loungers, yoga poses in front of waterfalls, muscled gym bunnies demonstrating military grade stomach crunches, superfruit smoothies. Fed up with this digital display of people, of perfect people having perfect lives on perfect holidays, a new breed of Instagrammers is coming clean. One couple admitted their gap year post would have been more accurate with images of all the toilets they had cleaned and beds they have made. A Thai photographer has created serial shots of photographs in which Instagram posts are juxtaposed against a broader picture, e.g., a stylish look dinner, which does not reveal the chaos outside the frame. He includes the background, and then we have a colon here, a cat on the table, and a half-eaten instant noodles. The psychology of both envy and FOMO, that is, fear of missing out, are fanned by the flames of Instagram. Teen Instagrammers have found a solution. They post real
So what about FOE?
The word foe, FOE,
Yes,
as
sir.
in an enemy. So Instagram, a friend or a foe. Now, I said a fox layer, it's foe when it is pronounced. So the instruction here was to provide a homophone. Remember, homo means the same. Phone sound. So any word that has the same sound as the word foe is the word FOE. So the question here is about Instagram being a friend or an enemy. Matatsi? All right. Okay, I saw your hand, but it looks like you were not asking a question. Now let's go to 5.2. Instagram show offs are prompting a backlash against overstayed shorts. That is in line one. Now, again, instead of instruction, rewrite the sentence above in the passive voice. Before I allow people to answer, please do remember you first need to break your sentence in different parts. You need to work out what is your subject, what is your verb, and what's your object. And you work out the tense to determine what tense are you supposed to change the tense that you're working with to. And then you can start changing. Matapelo, I see your hand. You can give us an answer there.
Good evening, sir. So
Hi.
the answer that I've got is a backlash against overstage shorts is being prompted by Instagram show-offs.
Is being prompted by Instagram show offs. Very good. But now here's a question that I need you guys to aware of. You can mute your mic, Matapelo. Thank you. Is being you might get a question where you are asked what tense this is. So you should be able to know your tenses. Once we start saying is being, we need to know what tense are we working with. Someone's mic is not on mute. Guys, can you please listen for once? It's disturbing. It is disturbing. I cannot stress this enough. It is disturbing this side of mine. All right. Is being prompted is what we needed. All right, let's move on. Um, 5.3, remove the redundancy in paragraph 1. Again, redundancy may be asked as tautology. So one of these you are going to get. So we need to find which word is redundant and we need to remove it. Again, here is how you should answer this question. You will start by writing the word remove and then your colon or your dash, and then you write the word that is giving that is redundant, a word that you would wish to remove. Let's see. Mbali,
Remove stuffed or crammed.
remove stuffed or crammed. Now, please be careful in your response. Ne? You said remove stuff or crammed. Don't give an answer like that tomorrow if you get a question of this kind. Ne? Uyangizwa Mbali?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
because dealing with one word, just say remove, just give us one word. Don't give us two words in this case. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on, shall we? Now, 5.4, write out the word AKA in line 4 in full. Sizzle.
AKA means also known as.
also known as, you'll be shocked that last year's group did not get this one right, by the way. Majority of learners were like, what is AKA? And I was like, oh, this is so sad. People don't even know anything that it's part of your daily life. You have a rap artist by the name of AKA. So I failed to understand how they couldn't understand what this word means. 5.5. Using the root word, provide an alternative adjective for the word muscled. Let's see who hasn't said anything. Okay, Josi, the alternative adjective for the word muscled.
Muscle bound.
Muscle bound, or let's hear other people. Kaya. Jacinto. Okay, Jacinto is not speaking. Makati.
Another word can be muscular.
Muscular would be another word. All right. I hope you are not accessing the memo, guys, because about today, I'm about to show the year in which the paper was published. I hope we are not accessing anything, because it is not going to benefit us. Instead, it's going to kill us in the process. Now, 5.6. One couple admitted their gap year posts would have been more accurate with images of all the toilets they cleaned, beds they made. Now, the question is, what is the function? Correct the error of tense in the sentence above. Let's see. Whose hand? Makatsi?
Oh, sorry, sir. My hand was raised because I couldn't see 5.6, but yeah, I'm not giving
Can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
All right. Who's willing to go and give us an answer here? Dogozo?
Sir, I think it's admitted.
Askes? Admitted. One couple admit. No, that's not. Sorry? Okay, Katleho.
One couple admitted their gap year post would have been more accurate with images of all the toilets they have cleaned and beds they had made.
So what's the problem here? Where's the error?
Asking me?
Yeah, where's the error? Because you've just gave me the sentence as it is.
No, sir, I added they had cleaned and the beds they had made.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yes,
all right. I didn't get that. All right, that's correct. Would have been, should have been, would be more accurate with images of all the toilets they had cleaned and beds they had made. So there were a number of incorrect uses of tense here. You could have picked up any one. So at least you've picked up one, but there were two others which other learners could have picked up as well. All right, let's move on. 5.7, what is the function of a hyphen in stylish looking? Now, can I say this, boys and girls? When it comes to a use of a hyphen, it is always to create a compound word. Avoid saying it is to join two words to make one. You are not going to get a mark there. So rather you need to know what type of a compound word are you dealing with. Is it a compound adjective or a compound noun? So in this case, I need you to be very specific as to what kind of a compound word is this. Makatsi?
It's a compound adjective.
It's a compound adjective. All right, very good. Now, 5.8, correct the Concord error in paragraph 3. Let's read paragraph 3. The psychology of both envy and FOMO, fear of missing out, are fanned by the flames of Instagram. Teen Instagrammers have found a solution. They post real Instagram, which are our Instagrams, and post targeted, or which are targeted at parents and friends, while their Finstagram, that is fake Instagram accounts, contain unflattering photos. Now, who's giving us an answer here? We are fixing the Concord error. Keep Mtetwa.
So in the 15th line, is I supposed to be is?
All right. Yeah, because Anuti, our subject here is singular. The psychology can be the psychology are, but the psychology is. All right, very good. Let's move on. Correct the apostrophe error in paragraph 3. I mean, that one should be glaring. It should be out there. Josi?
The S before the S, the T. Sorry, so the parents.
So correct it.
You remove the thingy.
The apostrophe.
The apostrophe.
Great stuff. So I needed the parents without the apostrophe there. Okay, let's move on. Now, perhaps it's time to get real or log off. Rewrite the words get real in formal English. Mbali.
Be serious.
Be serious.
Yes.
Get serious. Okay. I think we might credit such a response here. Okay. Who has something different? Let's see. Sizo.
Be realistic.
All right, be realistic or authentic or truthful would be the other way. Now, how did we attempt this paper? We started off with the summary. We moved to the using language correctly question. And now we move to question number 3, which is our advertising. Kosa? Thank you very much. We are looking at number 3. Again, you'll start by writing section C, language in context, question 3, analyzing advertising, text D. Remember, it's a new section. You need to start on a new page. Now, Alpha Hospitals, a state of mind, bullying, and then we have a colon. Spot it and stop it. I mean, the word spot it and the word stop it are what we call imperatives or commands. So every time a command is used, it is to, in most cases, give an instruction. For what? In this case, to stop something, which is rather negative, and that is bullying. Why? Because bullying is persistent, it's continuous, it never stops. It is intimidating, it is humiliating, or humiliating behavior which attempts to undermine someone. So we have a power relation here. Someone who thinks might be powerful is overcoming someone who is a bit weak. And then make our hospital an environment where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. I mean, we are in the hospital here where everyone is supposed to be looked after, but we sense that there is a type of bullying that's going on. And now let's look at the visual image. We see a puppeteer and the strings. And then we see a person sitting down, and we can argue that this is a puppet whose life has been controlled with strings by a puppeteer. So in this case, we could argue that the puppeteer is the bully, and whatever that takes place around the string is the bullying processes. Or yeah, and then he is cutting ties. He is taking charge, re-emphasizing the spot it and stop it. And let's look at the copy. What is a copy? Because I think you need to show us the next, that's where the copy is. Or people can zoom. Yeah, they can zoom what's written there. Now, steps you can take to spot it and stop it. So you are given steps to follow. Speak up and speak out if you are being bullied, or if you know someone who is being bullied. Speak to your manager and or HR, who will be supportive and helpful in finding the right way through. Try to sort the issues informally first of all. Make a formal complaint to your line manager, hospital director, or HR manager lead. Raise the issue on the staff feedback website with direct access to the CEO. So let me fix what I said. So this is not targeted to the patients in hospital, but the target audience here is the staff members who are employees at the hospital. So there seemed to be in this particular hospital a problem with bullying. Great stuff. Now, let's look at the questions now. Remember, we are looking at let me see how many marks, a 2-mark question. Again, 2 marks questions are between 2 to 4 lines. The question is account for. Again, here's the beginning of the real thing now. The past sections, I mean, we looked at a summary, we did not come across about account for, and we looked at language in context. There were no words such as account for. But now for the first time, we are coming across the instructional verbs. So what do? The first thing, we need to circle the instructional verb. So in this case, we're circling account for, and then the next step, we highlight the rest of the sentence. Now, to account for means to give a reason why something is happening. So here, we are looking at giving a reason for what? The tone. Now, how do we see the tone? We see it by the word choice. So what is the tone in the headline? Spot it and stop it. I think I did explain this when I started analyzing this and unpacking it. So first of all, yeah, I think in this section, I'm just going to go along and then explain, because I'm looking at how long it might take us to finish. So here, the tone is commanding because the speaker, or the advertisement is using what we call imperatives or instructions. So now, why is it giving instructions? Because we are asked to account for that tone of imperative or commanding. That tone is used to compel the reader to act on the instruction. That is, what's the instruction? To stop and report the bullying. So in this case, you get 1 mark for the identification of the tone and 1 mark for the explanation. So this question needed you to give us the tone of the speaker as well as the reason behind that tone. All right, let's move on. Discuss the suitability of the illustration in the text in conveying the message of the advertiser. Now, this is a very loaded question, by the way. We start with discuss. That's the first thing. After we have identified the instructional verb, we then move to the rest of the question. We highlight the whole question. And then after highlighting the whole, in this case, I don't need to know anything, just highlight. After you highlight, then you go back to the question and find the key words in the question of what it is that you are asked to highlight. The suitability, that's the first thing. You underline it. And then we have the illustration. Again, that's another term to underline. What is the illustration? The illustration is the picture. If we had a graph, the illustration would be a graph. If we had a pie chart, the illustration would be a pie chart. So in this case, we have a picture, and that is our illustration. So is this picture a suitable text? Now, before you answer these questions, try and rephrase them into simple words which you can understand, failing which you are not going to be able to provide the answer here. So here we are looking at, thank you, Kosam, for that, the suitability of the illustration. Is this picture suitable in conveying the message of the advertisement? The message of the advertisement, when we look at it holistically, it is all about reporting and putting an end to a practice of bullying. So is this picture a suitable illustration in the conveying of the message of the advertiser? So here, we should be looking at the fact that the victim of the bullying is depicted as a puppet and the bully as a puppeteer. So by severing the string, if you sever something, you break it or you cut it. No, break is incorrect, but you cut the ties. So by severing the strings, the victim is taking a stand and attempting to break the cycle of bullying. So the power of the bully is suggested by the larger than life arm. Look at the arm, it is large. It's larger than the body of the victim. So he is in a domineering position above the victim. So guys, you need to pay attention to each and every detail. Why is something depicted to be smaller than the other? That's another thing that you should take note of as you respond to these questions. Now, so the larger than life arm, he is in a domineering position above the victim. The silhouette of the victim, we cannot see the whole picture. We see only a silhouette of the victim, and also the fact that he is faceless. So a faceless representation of an employee appeals to a wide audience. So the fact that the employee is without a face connotes that he is not alone. There are a number of other colleagues experiencing this bullying system that he is going through. Kosam and others, are we still okay for time? I don't want to see the 14 minutes just cuts us off without me knowing prior. So your
We
silence
left
means,
approximately 18 minutes.
yeah?
We left approximately 18 minutes.
Oh, okay. So the 14 minutes message hasn't kicked in.
Yes.
All right. Okay, let's finish this one so that we can. Okay, let's continue. Now, so we are looking at the point driven home is that the victim of bullying is the only person who can stop the cycle. So we see this by the various victim severing the ties. So this gives us a sense of the fact that the victim is the only person in control and the only person to determine whether or not bullying must continue. Now, 3.3, you comment on, that is our next instructional verb. So we are going to give a comment on something. So what comment are we giving on? Again, you highlight two techniques that the advertiser has used in the written text to influence the reader. Now, we have highlighted the whole sentence. Let's break it down. The instruction wants me to look at two techniques. I underline that. I am not just going to give two techniques and leave it like that because I have 3 marks. So in this case, I need to identify two techniques and explain at least one, right? That's the whole purpose of the 3 marks. I don't need to explain both techniques, but I may if I wish to. So here, yeah, in this case, two techniques that the advertiser has used in the written text. So we are looking at spot it and stop it. Bullying is persistent, intimidating, humiliating behavior which attempts to undermine someone. Make our hospital an environment where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. And then we are given steps. You can take to spot it and stop it. Speak up and speak out. Speak to your manager and or HR who will be supportive and helpful in finding the right way through. Make a formal complaint and raise the issue. So here, what are the two techniques? We have different use of fonts. And now some are bold, that is for the drawing of the attention of the reader. And then we have a use of pronouns. Make our hospital an environment where everyone is with dignity. Speak and speak out if you are being bullied. Speak to your manager who will be supportive and helpful in finding the right way through. Make a formal complaint and raise the issue. So here we have comment on the two. Now let's go to 3.4. Now, 3.4 says provide a suitable synonym for the word intimidating in context. So, again, synonym is a word that means the same. So, we are looking at words such as threatening, frightening, or menacing. Now, 3.5, raise the issue on the staff feedback website. Provide the part of speech for the word staff in the sentence above. So the part of speech for staff, okay, I see someone wants to answer. Keith, what's the part of speech of the word staff?
Now,
Sorry?
it's a collective noun.
Mm-mm,
Staff, sir.
not at all. Not in this context.
I am failing.
No. If you go in there with that particular mindset, Zolima. Now, okay, let's go back to where this stuff is. Let me see. Raise the issue on the staff feedback. Yeah, on the staff feedback website. So in this context, it is an adjective instead of it being a collective noun. All right, let's move on. Okay, let's break this session and then we'll come back in the next few seconds. I'm going to send a link. Yeah, let's just take a 2-minute break. I need to use the bathroom quickly and then I'm going to come back. And then we're going to take it there. From there on, we're going to start with the cartoon and then we'll finish off with the comprehension passage. All right. In the next 2 minutes, I'm going to send the link. Are we all okay? All right, great stuff. Kosam, please make sure you are back in as soon as possible so that we can continue. All right, thank you. and then text E, and then you give your answers as according to the question set based on this text. This text is not the first time we see. We looked at it the last time, so it shouldn't be a problem answering it. Let's go through. This is Mrs. Nelson's father, and I want you to listen to that use of language here. I wanna, that wanna is a slang. So already the language here is rather informal. It is not formal. So I want to hear my baby girl's health condition, and right now here, and look at that now, it's in bold. No, I don't know her first name. No, I don't know her birth date. Just let me, look at that, let me, for let me. Here, something here, and then he uses that deep voice as he has done in the first frame. And again, we have a technique in the third frame where a character is not speaking. So in most cases, there's a reason why a character is not speaking. So the character is brought closer to the frame as well for us to see the emotions is going through by way of his facial expressions and his body position. Now in the fourth frame, I can't repeat what I heard. Now he's back to his regular Curtis voice. Now with the social distancing policies, we can't visit your teacher in a hospital. And then he says, oh, and to further re-emphasize the issue of Mrs. Nelson being a tough old lady, he uses the fist gestures to show the issue of this woman being a tough old lady. And the father says, that's it, Curtis, a positive attitude, and he gives him a hug. And then as his father hugs him, we see Curtis shedding a tear in the 8th frame. So in the past 7 frames, he's been showing a sense of strength. He's been very strong here. But now he looks very weak. So it is rather an ironic type of an ending here, because while we expect him to look a certain way, he looks the other way. It is also, in fact, an anticlimactic type of an ending, because, yeah, it's not an ironic ending, rather, but an anticlimactic, because we ended it to end or finish off in a particular way, and yet it wasn't the case. Now, let's look at the question. Account for the boy's intention in using the phrases all right and a tough old lady in frame 6. So here we are looking at the fact that the boy's intention is to convince himself. So the whole purpose for him speaking all of these words or using these words is to convince himself that his teacher will be well. He wants to give his father the impression that he is confident that she will recover. So that's why he uses words such as all right, a tough old lady. So he's trying to convince his father to think of him otherwise. Now 4.2, again, remember, in the first question, we were giving an account for, that's a reason for. The boy's intention was the key word, boy's intention of using the phrases all right and a tough old lady. Now, critically discuss is the second question, 4.2. What are you critically discussing here? The effectiveness of frame 8 as a conclusion to the cartoon. Now, may I say this to you guys? The effectiveness question, avoid beginning your answer with the effectiveness of, you are not going to get to the gist of the matter. You need to first identify certain things here, and then you then link it to it being effective or not effective. So, as a quick reminder and a tip, a question that deals with a conclusion in cartoons simply wants to know if the cartoon has reached its objective of creating humor. Again, when we discussed this in greater details some weeks back, we said there are particular devices responsible for creation of humor in cartoons. We said a pun, we said pathos. So pathos, also known as anti-climax. We spoke of irony. We spoke of satire. We spoke of sarcasm, and so forth and so on. So is frame 8 an effective conclusion or not? So we're going to start by looking at the fact that frame 8 is an anticlimactic ending. Since the boy's initial bluster, followed by his brave facade, ends when he comes to terms with the fact that this teacher's condition is in this way. So the boy becomes emotional when the truth dawns on him. So the role reversal here is depicted in frames 4 and 6. And this then we find that Curtis finds solace in his father's embrace. So this is an effective ending because it has created that particular humor effect, which is of the anti-climax. Now, rewrite frame 5 in reported speech. Again, when we report, please ensure to lose punctuation marks. So the question says, begin with Curtis's father said. So let's go to frame 5. With the social distancing policies, we can't visit your teacher in the hospital. So Curtis's father said, now the word that is optional, ladies and gentlemen. You are free to use it, or if you don't, you still don't need to use it. So you can say Curtis's father said, with the social distancing policies, they could not visit Curtis's teacher in the hospital. Or Curtis's father said that with the social distancing policies, they couldn't visit his teacher in the hospital. Right. Now, Kosam, please show us text F. Our question 4 had 2 texts. It had text E and text F. So again, before I start answering, I'm going to start by writing text F, and then 4.4 will be my next question. Great stuff. Now let's look at the next text. Tell me the truth, John. There's someone else, isn't there? Now I want you to look at this issue. There's someone else, isn't there? This is what we call a tag question. It's a question tag. There is positive, isn't is negative. So if my sentence is positive, my tag must be negative. All right. I'm saying this because you might come across a question that requires your knowledge on question tags. So look at how this question tag is written. There's someone else, there's a comma, then isn't there, then we have a question mark. So if you don't have that comma, you don't get a mark because the rule is you should have a comma and have the tag. Now, comment on the use of satire in text F. Now, we said satire is all about um, bringing forth to the reader's attention issues that are current and very much burning. So, what is this? What's an issue here? We are looking at a couple. We can assume that these two are a couple. One is so self-absorbed. He's looking in a mirror. He loves what he sees. We can tell by how he has a broad smile. His eyes are, he's looking very happy with what he sees. But the woman by his side is unhappy. And hence she asks a question that John, is there someone else? So we could see that the artist or the cartoonist rather is satirizing the issue of self love, or what we also known as narcissism. So, which is a heightened expression of love to oneself, where you see yourself and you don't see the others around you. So here, the cartoonist, so the question was, comment on the cartoonist's use of satire. How is he using satire in this case? The cartoonist ridicules the manner in which narcissism has encroached on relationships. So he no longer spends time. I mean, they are sitting on a bench together, which is supposedly supposed to be a very romantic time with him, or I mean, for him with his woman. But instead of giving attention to this woman, he is giving attention to himself. So this young man is therefore self-absorbed and paying no attention to the woman. So the satirical point here is driven when the woman thinks that there is a third party involved. It isn't. But when she realizes she doesn't get the attention she's supposed to get, she thinks that there is a third party involved. However, the young man's vanity or self love is evident in the manner he gazes at his mirror. So, this is the reason for his lack of attention. So, this new person or the third party is himself, to be quite honest, if we were to look at who is this person with whom he spends time. So in this case, he spends time with himself, looking at himself, appreciating himself. So that is the nature of narcissism. Any question before we move to the last section? Now we have bagged the 40 marks, and now we are going to the 30 marks. I doubt there are questions here. I don't see any hand. So this means we are okay. All right. Um, can I have another volunteer to read for me?
About other things.
Powerful senior citizens in the United States, Trump, Golian, and Biden are trading playground insults, and the middle-aged people who make serious decisions about how to handle this emergency seem incapable of thinking beyond the singularity, imagination-killing criterion of short-term profits.
Okay, just hold it there. Now, I want us to look. You can mute your mic, please. Now, let's look at the title here. The title says, "The old have made a to the world." So when we're looking at the old, we are looking at someone's mic is not on mute, guys, please. The old might be the old generation, and the young is the young generation. So already we get a sense that the writer has lost faith in the old generation, but at the same time believes that the young generation is our hope. Mahatsi, I see your hand.
Sir,
yeah.
Where are you? Okay, never mind. I'm only seeing this now. It was not there the whole time.
All right, no, it's fine. So let's look at the first line. I mean, in the first line, world leaders are meeting in Spain to decide whether or not to bother. I mean, listen to the word choice here. To bother gives us a sense that the speaker is giving us an attitude that is of a nature that says these people don't even care. So it's as if they don't bother. I mean, they need to decide whether or not to bother. Already, we get a sense that he is not happy about this type of a leadership, because it means they are rather dismissive in nature. It gives us a sense that they don't care. So they are to decide whether or not to bother with preventing the destruction of the earth. I mean, why can people want to decide? I mean, they need to take action against the destruction of the earth. So they are likened to people in a vehicle speeding towards a cliff, deciding whether to brake or swerve. I mean, if you're going to the cliff, it means you're going to fall. And worse, you are in a vehicle that is speeding towards that cliff. So their decision making are like people driving in a vehicle, speeding towards a cliff, deciding whether to brake or swerve. Or maybe they are simply chatting about other things. And then he says, powerful senior citizens in the United States. And then we have a dash here. So this dash says to us, it is now going to give us more details about who are the people he's talking about. In fact, it's a double dash here. So that's Donald Trump, Giuliani, and Biden. So they are trading, listen to this, playground insult. Already this exposes a particular tone about these people he's referring to. And the middle-aged people who make serious decisions about how to handle this emergency seem incapable of thinking beyond the singularity imagination killing criterion of short-term profit. Now look at the last word. He's looking at the short-term profit. So it's like whatever that they are doing, it's nothing else but commerce. It is the economics. All right. Can I get the next reader, please? Let's go to the second paragraph. Makatsi?
Okay. I began writing this column at a youth versus apocalypse, demonstrating in San Francisco. Demonstrating in San Francisco. The protest, which was led by teens, of course, as well as some of the 20-something members of the Sunrise Movement and Extinction Rebellion, took place in front of Black Rock. the world's largest investor in fossil fuels. There was a little cluster of mothers at the demonstration too, with babies and toddlers whose life expectancy, bearing catastrophes, extends into the second century. It was a Fridays for Future demonstration taking place all over the world, with 500,000 mostly young people in Madrid.
All right. So now in the second paragraph is giving more context to us as to what exactly was happening. He calls this the timing in which he wrote a youth versus the apocalypse. Let's look at the apocalypse. Apocalypse is the destruction of the world. That's from the glossary that we have in this particular text. So it was the youth versus the destruction of the world. So in San Francisco. Now, he gives us more details about this protest. So this protest was led by teens. That's a very much important thing to say, because he has looked at the teens or the youth as the people whose um, hands could save us. So, of course, as well as some of the 20-something members of the Sunrise Movement, and who took place in front of the Black Rock. So the world's largest investor in fuels was there. There was a little cluster of mothers. So in the second paragraph, it gives us more details about this particular um, protest. Let's go to the third paragraph. Sometimes I think that our species was for most of its history a child. And now he uses a colon. Now this colon is going to introduce the meaning behind him calling the history a child. It means that the history had limited capacity to harm, and thus limited responsibility to do no harm. I mean, when you look at limited responsibility and limited capacity, these are two things we can associate with infancy and childhood. So that's what he's trying to say about our history, or the history here. It is that it is likened to a child. We could kill one another, but we did it without napalm, or napalm rather, and nuclear weapons. We could think small because we were altering the earth with hunting, grazing, farming, foraging, and building. But most importantly, or most of our traces would vanish, and most of our impact left no lasting damage. With the Industrial Revolution, now he is going to give us something that we need to look at as to what exactly is a reason behind what we have in this case of the old making a mess and the young being able to save. So with the Industrial Revolution and its reliance on fossil fuels, so the Revolution rather, relies on fossil fuels. And with technologies capable of changing the earth on a more profound scale, childhood harmlessness faded into the past for those who wielded those powers and used those tools and benefited from it all. Humans ceased to be mere mortals, but our imaginations and ethics lagged behind our impact. For 2 centuries, we have been in a sort of a wild adolescence. Now, he calls this period a wild adolescence. So, and then he's going to give us what this means. It means too reckless, and we were too reckless and impatient to pay attention. These are qualities associated with adolescence. They are reckless in what they do, in what they say, in they're impatient, especially to paying attention, or to listen to those who point out that there are fatal consequences. So there were a number of people telling us that there are fatal consequences to what we are doing, but we couldn't care less because it's in the nature of an adolescent to be reckless and to not pay attention at all. So, and then listen to paragraph 5, and particularly looking at the diction, the type of words he uses. He says, we are on the brink. Now, already, the use of a brink tells us that we are just right at a very significant point where things are going to turn west. And then he says, in order to retreat from that brink, for us to be saved from going down, humankind's adolescence must end. So he brings the imperatives here. He says, we must snap out of it and grow up. So as a species, we must act with restraint. So he's giving commands here in the face of the consequences. We must consider the other species, human not yet born, and those currently facing dire climate vulnerability around the world, from floods, fire, sea level rise, crop failure, superstorms, and more. We must expand. He's continuing with his commands and his imperatives. We must expand our imaginations and act on a clearer understanding of our place in the world and our impact in the future. That means radical changes like our homes and transport being powered by renewables and leaving fossil fuels in the ground where they belong. We need to remind ourselves why these changes are necessary. And then we have a colon here. Is going to give us an explanation of why these changes are necessary, or the reason that the earth is infinite or finite, and actions have consequences that go beyond the horizon of what we can see and hear in time and space. So those who come after us have rights. We cannot just annihilate. I mean, listen to this, these particular word choices. We must make sweeping changes by the end of the coming decade, and we must stick to them afterwards by remembering why they matter. What is striking in this moment is that environmental maturity is largely the property of the young. So now he's bringing the issue or the reason why the young people could be the next savior. It's because the majority of the environment is largely the property of the young. It belongs to young people. Many of the significant adults in the room of climate chaos are 16 or 20 or 27, such as Greta Thunberg. Now, Greta and the thousands of youth like her who are less visible but no less committed. Teens from Nigeria to Alaska are doing their utmost for the climate, but they control no shares, have no votes, sit on no boards, which means we have again a colon, which means they need us just as we need them. They are the leadership at this moment. So he calls the youth as the leadership. Already we have about Trump and all of these other people he has made mention of, but he dares not call them leadership at this point. He calls them leadership at this point because young people have the environmental maturity at this point. Now, youth who are thinking about 2100, who are ready to change everything and who understand the gravity and scale of the catastrophe. The young who have never experienced a below average temperature on Earth have the capacity to recognize that we are in an emergency. There is wisdom in youth. In their lack of attachment to the status quo that is not their status quo, and in their ability to imagine profound change. There have been far-sighted, altruistic people in every generation. Because some we've lost a lot of people there, but it's okay. I'm sure they were following. It's the last portion, last paragraph. Now, we see that the profound change in the youth's new ways of dealing with conflict, rejecting competition and capitalism, while they understand what is possible and ethical. Juvenility and maturity are the longer or no longer categories attached to how long you've been on earth. So he says here, in most cases, we used to think that you are mature because of the number of years that you have lived. And also we looked at you as a juvenile because of the number of years you have lived. Juvenile would be anything below 18, and mature anything over 18 and above. So he says, no, it doesn't work like that anymore. Juvenility and maturity are no longer categories attached to how long you've been on earth, but how far you see and how much you care. And then we are given a glossary of words here. Please ensure that you look at it when you have such. Now, Kosam, I want you to take us to the questions. I'm not going to go through all the questions, but I need to look at certain questions which might be problematic. And I will give you instructions or advice on how to go about responding. Kosam, I'm waiting for text B. Thank you very much. Now, in the second text, we have Greta. So Greta is that little young lady there. Her name is written right on her chest. She has a hashtag action, and it looks like she is throwing something at the global establishment. It could be a stone. So it is a hashtag, how dare you. Now, this is a very, very typical, what's this, visual of what the writer of this article is trying to say the youth being represented by Greta has the ability to pull down global establishments, which is representative of the old generation. So you need to analyze the picture. I mean, look at the earth. It seems as they are standing on a cracked earth. Now, this is also indication or an indication of the fact that the earth is no longer healthy. So Greta takes it upon herself to deal with the powers that be. In the case of using the hashtag, how dare you. We have action lines here, and we can see that right up to the forehead, and there are action lines around, and there are stars. And we all know when we see stars, it means that the other character might be hurt or wounded. So we don't know exactly what Greta is throwing, but we might argue and assume that she might be throwing a stone. Some learners could look at this in a biblical way of David and Goliath, but I don't want you to look at it that way because that's not what the question was requiring. It was just as an analogy to look at how David, as a small young boy, was able to take out Goliath as a big and a gigantic figure. Now, let's look at 1.1. It is an entry point or entry level question. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this is quite clear. Everyone should get the 2 marks. You are being asked what message does the writer convey in the first sentence. I mean, the first sentence, you don't need to go there because you can leave it here. The first sentence is given to us here. World leaders are. So let me read it for you as a reminder. World leaders are meeting in Spain to decide whether or not to bother with preventing the destruction of the earth, like people in a vehicle speeding towards a cliff, deciding whether to brake or swerve, or maybe they are simply chatting about other things. So I'm supposed to give like the question is, what message does the writer convey here? So the writer's message is that world leaders are meeting to discuss climate threats, but are not showing any sense of urgency in dealing with the matter. So that's the message. You need to find, if you are asked of the message, you go to that line reference, you read that line reference, and you solicit or you deduce from it what message is the writer is the writer trying to convey. Now, 1.2, what does the word trading playground insults reveal about the writer's attitude towards powerful politicians? I mean, again, when you are being asked of attitude, you are being asked of the tone. So you need to find what type of a tone are we dealing with. I mean, the speaker is using words such as trading playground insults. Now, they are taking us to trading. That is when you begin to commercialize something. And then playground is where children play. And as they on the ground, they insult or they trade or exchange. Yeah, trading would be for exchange. And then they exchange insults. So if he says Donald Trump and the others are trading playground insults, this already gives us an indication that the writer's tone is dismissive in nature. It is scornful of the immaturity and the behavior of the politicians. So playground would connote that there is a lot of play. And this is where children spend most of their time. So this person using the word trading playground insults gives us a sense that he's using a tone of scorn and a tone of dismissiveness to say, I mean, these people are contemptuous. So I'm very much contemptuous towards them. So that's the type of a tone. Avoid using the word negative or positive. We do not have a negative or a positive tone. Now, refer to paragraph 2. You'll always go back there. You are asked the importance, discuss the importance of mentioning the participants in the various protests. Remember, we spoke about the number of people who were participating. So in this case, we are looking at why is it important that he mentions the participation of. So you need to be able to think as to why are these people being added here. So we may say that the common factor among all the participants is that they are either young or have young children. So he spoke about mothers, he spoke about the young people, which implies that the preservation of the earth is crucial for future generations. So young people are committed to making a change towards preserving the earth for the future generations. Now let's go to 1.4. The implication question. Now you are being asked here, what are the implication of referring to humankind as a child? So in simple terms, the question is, what do they imply by calling humankind a child? So when we look at a child, we understand that a child is primitive. A child is without any responsibility. So the implication here, so a child, the destruction that was caused was minimal. It had limited capacity to harm. In recent centuries, humankind's reckless destruction, likened to wild adolescence, has wrought irreversible damage, and humankind has no qualms about the destruction of the earth and pays no attention to those who point out the likely consequences of her actions. Again, we are looking at what does this word a child imply in this question. And now 1.5, yeah, I'm not going to go into details here, guys. I'm just trying to show you what exactly are you being asked by certain words. How does the writer use diction? Now, your key word here is diction. You're going to look at the words. That's paragraph number 5. Let's go there. We see the word on the brink. We see adolescence must end. We must act with restraint. Must consider other species, those currently facing dire climate and vulnerability. So you look for the number of words that the speaker, or not the speaker, but that the writer is using. And then you try and understand, why is the writer choosing to use these words? What are they trying to convey as a message? Okay, because I needed to go to the last question, number 8, 1.8, the last segment of this paper. All right. So the last question is, I just want to go to question text B. In this case, you are referred to the Greta girl. And why has she arrived with 2 hashtag speech bubbles? So the 2 hashtag slogans are Greta's weapons or online tools against the establishment. So they represent the defiance. Example, how dare you? And a call to action, that is hashtag actions. So the resistance movement slogans are depicted as physical weapons or online tools. Just like Goliath used a stone to fight, David used a stone to fight a Goliath. We can look at Ugreta as that David, who was able to use the tools, which are the hashtag action and hashtag how dare you, as a form of resistance. Now, and then comment on the composition of the characters in the cartoon. So here, you were asked to just speak about what you see. So learners couldn't bring this up very clearly because they didn't know exactly what they were supposed to say. So composition, in this case, is dealing with what do you see. So you had to retell what you see. And then that's how you should have been able to get your marks. So the global establishment, in this case, is a businessman. And this businessman is depicted as an elevated, indomitable figure. By the looks of things, he looks big, bigger than Greta. So you cannot dominate. Greta, you could. So Greta is presented as a small individual who has struck the head of the opposition. So Greta is looking at the men directly, indicating her fearlessness. So you were actually, in this case, supposed to look at the characters. If you get a text like this one tomorrow, don't just give answers. Look at the text. Try and understand what the question is trying to, what is the text trying to depict? And then the last question is a comparative, where you are comparing text A and text B. So to what extent does text B reinforce the ideas expressed in paragraph 7 of text A? So what you need to do, you look at text B, as I've already explained it, against what paragraph 7 says. And then you make a comparison. Guys, this is a 4-mark question. And we said for 4 marks, you need 4 to 6 words. You can't write 2 lines and expect to get 4 marks. So what do you need to do here? You need to say one thing and explain it, that is from text B, and one thing and explain it, that is from paragraph 7, and then finally show where there is a contrast, if there is, or where there is a similarity. And that's how you should get your points. So don't just speak about one text in isolation of the other. You should be able to look at both texts side by side. Say something that is from this text, and how is this something supported by what is on the other text. So in this case, you are looking at the greater picture, and you look at paragraph 7. You try and find information from the 7th paragraph, which is in words, but depicted in a picture. Lapago text B. So that is, that is what exactly you need to do there. Now, boys and girls, this brings us to the end of tonight's last push. A few reminders for tomorrow. Boys and girls, before you go to bed, a reminder from an educator. 1, avoid drinking too much water tomorrow morning, because whether you are pressed or not, you will never be allowed to leave the room. Remember, the exam you're writing is an external exam. So the government is going to send officials, and officials will have to enforce the laws. One of which is no one is to leave the room within the first hour of the examination. So try and drink water sparingly tomorrow. In fact, throughout your examination, because you will find it difficult to be allowed to leave the room. In my school, the boys would tell you, if I'm the invigilator, I always make sure I don't break the law. You'll sit there, you'll squirm and do everything that you want to do. I'm just going to look at you. So try not drink too much of water. Number 2, before you go to bed today, make sure you have your plastic sleeve. That is where you are going to put your ID copy. I highly advise that you don't take your original ID, because should it get lost, you are going to be in a serious problem. So by now, you should have had made copies of your IDs and had them certified. And your certification stamp should not be older than 2 months. In that case, the police service have confirmed that you are the person on the ID, and they certify that it is legal. And then you leave your physical copy of your ID at home for safekeeping. So a certified copy of your ID with your personalized timetable. And I'm sure you were able to go through your personalized timetable to see if there are no problems, because other learners discovered they were registered for subjects for which they don't do. And they realized that after they received their timetables. And then I have one boy who realized that all his subjects on his timetable are written in Afrikaans. And to my surprise, he only realizes this yesterday, one day away from the exam. And I just told the young man to be ready to write all his exam papers in Afrikaans, because now he's making his problems mine. So, ladies and gentlemen, you need to make sure that you are responsible. They had 1 week. Guys, you received timetables a week ago. How dare you only check your timetable a day before your examination? And I don't know what's going to happen, whether or not his papers are going to be in Afrikaans. I said it just to scare him, but I don't know. What if they do come in Afrikaans? Then the young man is going to I don't know what's going to happen to him. So make sure that there are no surprises. Again, your timetable, make copies, have them certified in case you lose your original. Because whether you stand in front of the door, you cry and kick, you will never be allowed into the examination room. So make sure you have copies you could use in case of a problem that would arise. Also, since we have a number of copies of your timetable, make sure you put a copy on the fridge. I mean, the fridge is something that we visit every day. The door as well, the door to our bedrooms. Let everyone be able to see when you're writing, so that should you forget that you are writing in the morning, someone might remind you to get ready on time. So make sure you are accountable. Somebody is able to see what you're writing and when and at what time you will be writing. What else? In everything you do, please, guys, don't panic, because when you panic, you do a lot of mistakes. So tomorrow, get to school on time. That's another thing that's going to cause a lot of unnecessary panic. When you arrive late, then your nerves are going to be out of place. So get to school on time, have your full school uniform, and be as ready as you can. And I would really advise you, after this session, I think you have done enough during the day. After the session, if I were you, I think we've done a lot of preparation. It would be the great idea to just go straight to bed and give yourself enough resting time. I think you've done a lot throughout the day. So taking it farther than this would be you tiring yourself. Itumeleng, what's your question?
Sir, does the order of the questions matter?
No, that's what I started off with that one. Let's go through this again. The order of question. I need to be very careful with your word order as well. The order of question is going to be a serious problem for me. But let me just, can you see what's on the screen there? Itumeleng, are you able to see?
Yes, I can see.
All right. Now, I said you are not, it's not a prescription or a prescribed way of answering, but research has proven that a lot of learners who want to keep the order, that is to start with the comprehension, follow with the summary, then but the advertisement, then cartoon, then language, they don't usually do good, because they spend a lot of time trying to answer comprehension questions, because comprehension passages are by nature demanding. They need a lot of engagement, and the text is rather long. If you did realize, we were reading a text that is 2 pages long. Yeah, it's 1.5 page. So the other texts are very short. You just read a very short text and you answer questions. Hence, the advice is to start with the summary, which is question number 2. You move to your language, which is question 5. You go to your advertisement, which is question 3. You go to your cartoon, which is question number 4. And then after you have secured the 40 marks, then you can go over your comprehension passage. What you cannot do is have question